Hello and good evening, everyone. And once again, thank you for joining us for this session. In this session, we have Katherine, Mehta, and Kavitta Bedi from Xtraview. And you will learn how to prepare for your interviews, how to showcase your poise, communication skills, and potential by demonstrating to the admission officers glimpses of your true personality. This session would help you to showcase who you really are in your own words. It's a great chance for all of you to learn more about interviews, as I've mentioned a few minutes ago, that in the absence of testing, in the absence of a lot of academics that you could have done at schools, interviews are a great way to present yourself to the admissions committee, right? So take down notes, bring a pen and paper, and see how you can work upon your interviews and sort of have a great chance to showcase your personality to the admission officers. Before we get going, let me briefly introduce Katherine and Kavitta. Katherine is the CEO and founder of Advanta Consulting, where she works with international high school students from India and across the world and helps them with undergraduate admission process. She graduated a magna cum laude from Kenyon College, Ohio, where she majored in anthropology, dance, and drama. She built a career in international education after first coming to India in 2009 as a researcher. She also researched and edited Indian art history texts and coordinated semester-long academic programs and excursions for American college students in India. She is a member of the International ACAC, and in the past she has served as a college essay counselor for the college essay guide and helped guide low-income students through their college application and essay writing process. She currently serves as a board of director for the American Welcome Association, which is a not-for-profit organization serving and connecting American expat community in New Delhi. It's a pleasure to have you here, Katherine.
Thank you, Devesh. We're excited to be here.
Kavitta, on the other hand, she's the founder of JBC INC, which is Just Because It's Children, where she brings in Broadway theatricals from overseas for children and family audiences all across India. The show includes Bernie Live, Spider-Man Live, Noddy Live, Jungle Book Live, etc. And these shows have been presented in Delhi, Mumbai, Bangalore, Kolkata, and a lot of places across the world. An entrepreneur at heart, she is also an angel investor with investments in tech startups across crowdfunding, food tech, supply chain, health tech, and now in edtech. An alumni at of Lady Sri Ram College and a specialist of marketing management from the Times School of Marketing. She's a corporate. Her corporate career includes heading communications for the British Council in India and being a part of the brand management team at Daewoo Motors. She is also a spousal member of Young Presidents Organization. A very warm welcome to you as well, Kavitta.
Thank you so much, Devesh. It's entirely our pleasure to be here today on this platform.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, both of you, for joining us for this session. And before we get going, a couple of quick announcements. The session is being recorded, so you will all be able to watch the recording on our YouTube channel. For any questions about interviews or anything that you'd like to know, please feel free to use the Q&A feature, and we'll have roughly 5 minutes towards the end of the session to take up your questions. With that, let me pass it on to Kavitta and Katherine. Over to you.
Thank you, and very warm welcome to all the students and their parents and anyone else, educators, counselors who might be watching this. And my name is Kavitta B. Bedi. After that very generous introduction, sharing the platform with me today will also be Katherine. Katherine, you want to say a quick hello before we jump in?
Hi, everyone. We're very excited to be here with you today and to discuss profile building specifically through your interviews.
Okay, so let's talk about what is it that is crucial for a student to succeed in today's highly competitive but a very confused world. So the 3 words that we would say are very important would be to speak, to be able to showcase, and then succeed. So, all you students today have great opportunities. You all get involved in great programs. You go on to achieve great things. But then how do you showcase facets of your personality that make you stand out as winners amongst the crowd? And eventually, how does that ensure that you succeed and live your dream education? So when we are talking about interviews, sometimes we tend to miss out on the importance of how important that interview actually is. Because no matter what great things you might have achieved, till you're able to communicate that to the person who is evaluating and assessing you, then it doesn't really matter how much you have achieved. So that achievement actually needs to lead to your success. Today, when we're talking of interviews, there are two kinds of interviews. They could be on the digital format or they could be in the in-person format. But in this new world, I think digital interviewing is going to stay for a very, very long time. In fact, forever now. So let's look at some of the things which are basics to imagine when we're going through an interview process. So the setting is truly important. When we're doing an online interview, remember, it seems very basic, but how you choose to present yourself, the setting, and here it includes not just what is visible on your screen, on your camera, but also what is audible. Sometimes we forget that that is part of setting, and we have to ensure that it's a formal, clean, clear, crisp setting that doesn't distract from what you're saying, and nor there should be any extra noises that are audible during your conversation. The second that we need to remember is our own appearance. How we appear before we speak, actually the first 7 seconds is when the human brain forms an impression about the other person. So within that 7 seconds, you need to get it right. How you look, how your hair is combed, what your makeup is like, and the most important thing, your smile and your twinkling eyes. And lastly, the basic that we all must remember and things that we take for granted sometimes is punctuality. Again, we did this huge survey and there are studies when we ask interviewers, what are the top 3 things that you assess when you meet a candidate? And all of them, trust me, said punctuality. So remember, you can never be too early, but you can be a second too late. Now that we've got the basics out of the way, let's talk about something that we like to call at Extra Prep, the 3 Ps. These 3 Ps are crucial when you're preparing for your interview. So what's the first P? The first P is practice. When you've got your written material ready, now whether you choose to write it on your computer, whether you choose to make notes, or whether you choose to have it in your head, practice. Say it, and say it again. Remember, practice makes perfect. And when you practice, you have various styles that you can practice in. A loud voice, a pause here, a subtle tone here, a flamboyant gesture here. And then you can pick and choose out of those various options things that make you feel comfortable and confident in your conversation. So remember, practice is a must. What is the second P? The second P is preparation. Now, this preparation happens at 2 levels. When we're doing an online interview, then we must remember that to check the first thing, that our gadgets are nicely charged. They are in proper working condition. Your camera, your mic, your audio, your video, and also the platform you're using to engage with has been practiced before. So you don't want to fumble trying to figure the platform out during your conversation. So prepare for it beforehand. Also, you need to prepare. If it's an in-person interview, then you must be prepared with your A game. So what does that mean? You must carry yourself into the room in a certain way. You must be dressed appropriately. Your body language must talk about the fact that how you're eager, confident, and you're going to win this discussion. And last but not the least, again, the smile. Be affable, be knowledgeable. What you don't know, turn the question around in a way that you make it seem that even though you don't know about the information, but you're eager to learn about it. And the last P of these 3 Ps is pre-research. Sometimes we think it's not so necessary to do this, but this is actually key for you to crack that interview. Now, there are two things that you need to pre-research. The first pre-research you need to do is about the institution that you're going to be applying to. And today, it is very easy to find information. At the click of a button, it is available. So my suggestion, as you know, Xtraprep always suggests to you, start reading information about the colleges that you want to apply to. Start researching the courses you want to apply to. Today, every institution is available on social media. Start following them, start getting all the information, start getting newsletters for them, so that you are well aware of what that institution is all about. Second is the course. Now remember, don't just skim the surface. It's not enough to just talk about one little thing that you read somewhere. The person interviewing you is more knowledgeable than you and is there for a reason to assess you. So you must have dug deep. If you're bringing a fact up, make sure that you have researched it enough that you can talk about it, because you are going to take the conversation in that direction. Lastly, learn about the core mission and vision of the institute or the course that you're going to apply for. And when you're going to do this, then you will be able to align your path, your goals with the mission, vision, and path of that university to make yourself seem and stand out as a perfect fit candidate. So have you seen how important it is to do this pre-research? And also start reading informatory blogs, start watching information videos, start following people who interest you in the field of the study that you choose to follow. Also, sign up for free workshops, webinars offered by that institution so that you become a point where they are seeing that somebody is interested enough in us to make the effort. So pre-research is actually key for you to land yourself as an irresistible candidate in your interview pool. Okay, with that, we come to the end of the 3 Ps. And now I hand it over to Katherine to take us over some more interesting abbreviation, should we say, that Xtraprep has coined.
Yes, thank you for that, Kavitta. And so the 3 Ps that Kavitta had just explained are sort of your preparation before you're going into the interview. This is everything that you need to do to make sure that you're ready to deliver all of the information that you need to share. But then how do you do that in an effective way in the interview itself? So our next abbreviation is the 3 Ws. So what do the 3 Ws stand for? Who, what, and why. We like to use these 3 Ws as a format to think about when you are responding to questions that you may be asked in the interview. So one of the most common ones that will come up initially is some version of "tell me about yourself" or "please introduce yourself," something to just get you into the interview and for the interviewer to get to know you. And this is often where students feel intimidated. They may feel a bit daunted by, how do I introduce myself? How do I even begin to approach this? This is where you use the 3 Ws. So who are you? You would start with a brief introduction of "hello, my name is," and then share a little bit of information. Either I attend this school, I grew up in this city, I'm applying for this post, right? Some information that just gives them context as to who you are. Next, what? So what do you do? This is helpful because when you share this information early in the interview, in your introduction, then it gives the interviewer some leads to pick up on and some information that they can use for the rest of the interview to help the conversation. So a trick that I often like to share, it's sort of a little known secret, but in the interview, don't be scared by the possibility of what might the interviewer ask. Know that you actually have a fair bit of control in terms of steering the direction of the interview. How do you do that? You do that through the information that you lay out in your introduction. So let's say, for example, I'm a student, I've done a lot of work in drama and in, I work for my school's literary magazine. I feel very comfortable talking about that, and that's what I would like to share. So in my introduction, I would say, hello, I'm Katherine. I'm a student of this school, and in my school, I serve as the editor-in-chief of my literary magazine, and for the past 4 years, I've been really involved in theater. So there I've introduced the what of what I do, and automatically I've given information to the interviewer that they will likely pick up on and ask some follow-up questions on that. So in that way, I've already sort of put those leads out there for the information that I want to talk about. The last part is the why. And this why is so important because that's what gives insight into you as an individual. The why is, why do you do what you do? So not just I do this, but here's why. Here's my passion. Here's my purpose. Here's my motivation. And ultimately, that's what someone wants to see in a candidate. They want to understand what inspires you, what motivates you. So the way that you bring that information in is not just saying, you don't just leave your response at, I've performed it. I'll use the same theater example. I've performed in a lot of plays, but to say, I've performed in a lot of plays, and this is because I love theater. I love that it allows me to express this whole range of emotions. So I love that connection that I make when I'm on stage and I can see someone in the audience looking forward at me. So talking about what is it that motivates the work that you do. Similarly, if a question comes up about, excuse me, what is your favorite book and why? Yes, you can talk about the book, but that why is always important. Or what is a challenge that you've overcome? You can talk about what the challenge was, but why was this challenging? And what did you learn from this? So that why always becomes sort of the second half of your answers, of your information that you're sharing. So the who of who you are, the what of what you do, and most importantly, the why of why you do it and what drives you. So when you are preparing your responses to the different interview questions that may come up, keep these 3 W's in mind because they give you a very clear structure, not only for how you introduce yourself, but also for how you may structure any of the responses, any of the questions that are posed to you in the interview. All right, and then finally, one of the most important tips in an interview is to make sure that you're also communicating your USP. What makes you unique from all of the other candidates who are applying. Sometimes we also frame this as a personal narrative, or what's your story that you want to share, a story about your life that only you can, that only you can tell. So when you're thinking about your USP, again, you keep those 3 W's in mind, the who, the what, the why, but also what are your strengths? What are your strongest points? What are the things that you know to be true about yourself? And then how do you communicate that in a way that's supported with examples and anecdotes that you're able to share? So it's one thing for me to say, I'm a really strong public speaker and just leave it at that. It would be another if I say, I feel that one of my strengths is public speaking. I currently serve as the captain of my school's debate team. I've been participating in speech and debate for 4 years, and I've received this recognition from my school. Something like that, or when you have that evidence that supports what you do and what you're trying to highlight as your key strengths, then it helps to create not only this really sort of, a strong argument for the skills that I'm presenting, but also you don't come across as boastful because you're sharing the facts. You're just sharing the facts and information of what you have done and what you have accomplished so far. So don't be afraid to highlight your strengths in the interview, but do it in such a way that it's backed with evidence and that you're really highlighting sort of those unique points that make you, that make you you, and that will help you stand out from all of the other individuals who may be applying for the same position. Don't be afraid to go beyond the common and cliche answers and find the answers that are really true to you, but then you can also support with the work that you've done through high school. So again, as Devesh had mentioned earlier, the interviews have become such an important part of the college admissions process. Not only, earlier, there's the obvious role of the interview when you're applying for summer programs, for internships, that aspect of profile building that you very well may have to give an interview in order to qualify for those leadership roles in your school, right? All of these require interviews. These interviews require practice and preparation. But then later on, when you are applying to universities, universities want to understand you. They want to understand your story. And one of the best ways to convey that is through the interviews that you do, whether it's a recorded interview, whether it's one that you're doing with an admissions officer. And so to be prepared for those is key. It's a really crucial element of profile building, especially as we're moving away from standardized tests in many cases and more towards these other factors that admissions officers will be considering when they're reviewing your application in a holistic manner. Yeah.
So we'd just like to end the session by saying that Extra Prep is here to help you learn more. There's lots more from where this came from. And we actually regularly hold workshops for students. So write into us at contact@xtraview.in and we will get back with the next workshop dates. We have 2 dates in August coming up for workshops. And we would love to have your students there, attend those workshops. And remember, preparation is key to ace these interviews. And now we would be happy to take on any and all questions. So hit us up.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Kavitta and Katherine, for this wonderful session and for sharing so much about how to ace the interviews, right? To all the students who are out there, check out xtraview.in, their website. We have just posted that in the chat. Also, feel free to reach out to them, and I'm sure they'll share some wonderful resources with you. And do plan to attend some of their sessions. If there are educators who are listening this, feel free to reach out to Katherine and Kavitta, and they would be happy to host sessions for your schools and sort of help your students with interview prep for their college admissions. I can see there are a couple of questions, and let me take those up for you. So I'll just read out the first question. Normally during a virtual interview, is it advisable to have a background? So I do have a background, but what are your thoughts on should they have a background or should they just be in their natural environment?
Yeah, I think backgrounds, as long as they're appropriate, right? Obviously, we don't want like the Eiffel Tower behind you or fish swimming by, but as long as it's an appropriate background, I think backgrounds are perfectly acceptable, especially if you know that it's hard for you to find a space in your house where it's a plain white wall. Or if it's difficult, by all means, put on, a plain, undistracting background.
Wonderful. What all key points should be included in the introduction during the interview?
So remember, when you're doing your introduction, you want to give information, but you want to leave it hanging so that naturally you go to the next question. So of course you have to give all your, practical details, your name, your school, if you've got positions that you want to highlight. But it's always nice to slip that little line in, which gives a little insight into your personality, and leave it there. We like to say, give that little bit to hook the interviewer in so that he asks you he or she asks you the next question that you're ready with the answer for. So, like Katherine said, you can control the way that your conversation and interview goes to a large extent. You just need to know how to.
Wonderful. And another question here is how to avoid nervousness during interviews.
So, little secret, we all get nervous. Kavitta and I were nervous before this presentation. Everyone gets nervous before a big presentation, before an interview. So that's completely normal and natural. I'm going to sound like a broken record. Practice. The more you practice, the more confident you feel, and the more you realize that, yes, I may feel nervous for those first 5-10 seconds, but I know that I'll get over that and I will slip into, a level of comfort in this conversation. So know that it happens to everyone, but practice, practice, practice. That is your best friend to overcome those sort of initial jitters and nerves.
And I'll also share another sort of secret. We've created this course, we've created this presentation. Even if you wake us up at 3 a.m. and say, talk about the 3 Ps, I can do it in my sleep. But even then, we practice before we present. And that is key. And, that is something that we would give you as a tip for life. Even when you become CEOs and presidents and leaders and, entrepreneurs who are successful, remember, practice is still key. That's the only way to do it to be successful.
Absolutely. And I would also add to that practice, because when we are hosting this webinar, my team and I, we practice all these sessions thoroughly and multiple times. So there is no substitute to practicing. Totally agree to you on that. Okay, so that takes me to the next question. What are the different kinds of interviews that students can come across, like with the alumni, with the admissions? What can they expect when they are thinking about interviews?
Sure. So I'm going to break this up. I think there are a few different types of interviews, right? You may get some that are more sort of just general admissions interviews where they want to know, tell me a bit about yourself, tell me about what you've done, why are you interested in our school? And then there are also ones that are either very specific to a university or to a type of program that you're applying for. So for example, if you're applying to Oxford, Cambridge, they have a very specific interview to the and it's specific to the subject that you're planning to apply for. If you're applying for medicine in the UK, there will be another set of interviews there. So I think within the admissions process, those are two different kinds of interviews that you will face. And then if we're talking about these ones that are, general admissions interviews, you may be interviewed by an admissions officer. You may be interviewed by an alumni of the university, or even a current student who works for the admissions office. In all of those, I would say the types of questions that you're asked are still fairly similar. It's just that the person interviewing you differs. And so, if it's someone who's a current student or who is an alumni, you may ask them more questions about their own experience, why they chose this college, as opposed to if it's someone from the admissions office, you may more ask them questions about, the admissions process or, more information about the university. So generally, those ones are not so different in the type of content. It's just a matter of who is interviewing you.
Wonderful.
Devesh, I'm just going to take a second here to also talk about the fact that Extra Prep has a product called Xtraview, where students can log in and either do practice interviews also, or you can record an interview where you can choose which facet of your personality you want to highlight. And that recorded link is given to you, and you can send it across with your with your resumes, with your applications to colleges, admissions officers, and internship companies that you wish to apply to. So that's something else that you can check out when you log onto the website.
Fantastic. I highly encourage all of you to check out xtraview.in and explore Extra Prep and Xtraview, which Kavitta just mentioned. With that, we are coming to the end of the session. And as we end, maybe any final word of advice that you'd like to share with the students before we close? Would you like to add anything? Yes.
Yeah, I'd just like to say that, please, students, don't be scared of interviews. It's actually the best opportunity you have to showcase everything that's great about you. And trust me, trust yourself that each one of you has the power to succeed right within yourself. So believe in yourself.
Wonderful.
Yeah, absolutely. I second that. Have faith in yourself. Know that you have the stories, you have the information. People are interested in what you can tell them and what you can share. So it's just a matter of doing that practice, figuring out how to structure your answers and how to present the best version of yourself. And we at Extra Prep are here to help you along the way.
Superb. Thank you so much for sharing that, Kavitta and Katherine. It was a pleasure having both of you here. Thank you for sharing so much information about how to approach the interviews. And before we close, let me very quickly share a couple of resources with all of you out there. Students, we have a couple of amazing resources. Number one is our YouTube channel, where we post all these videos of people that we work with, that we collaborate with, and you get to know a lot about things like what to study at college, how to get into some of the best colleges in the world, how to write your college application essays, and things like that. The link of that is pasted in the chat. Feel free to use that and follow us. And the second resource is our Instagram account, once again, where we share a lot of information about very relevant things that you can benefit from. So those are the two resources. And with that, we would like to end the session. Thank you once again, Kavitta and Katherine, for joining us. And there are a few more questions which are there, which you can answer. It would be okay if you could go off the screen and then take those answers, and we would be ready for the next session now. Thank you for joining.
Thank you. Bye-bye.